Cthulhu Jack.
After watching Suitable Flesh, I have to say that screenwriter Dan Paoli once again does a brilliant job at cherry-picking Lovecraft's tale and turning it into his own modern and loose adaptation. As mentioned in my previous review of The Evil Clergyman, Paoli's writing goes back to first adapting 1985's Reanimator, that Stuart Gordon directed. What's nice is he is a steady signature voice, synonymous with Lovecraft's work in this genre. I also feel even though his comedy is turned up a tick more than in Lovecraft's original writings, he does still manage to snare that New England dry, sarcastic wit that sometimes appears faint in Lovecraft's work. Especially if you read any of Lovecraft's letters or postcards. He has a sardonic, charmed brevity. Even though on this round, director Stuart Gordon isn't leading the charge, his presence is felt through the talents of director Joe Lynch. So let's pull out that old Necronomicon and head down the 6,000 steps to Shoggoth's Pit, with Lovecraft alum Barbara Crampton as Dr. Upton, and 2023's Suitable Flesh. Heather Graham picks up the reins as the lead as Dr. Elizabeth Derby, a psychiatrist whose wide-eyed enthusiasm brings her down a dark path when a distraught Asa Waite shows up at her door needing her help. Played by Judea Lewis, who I have to say really nails the multiple performances in this. It could have gone so poorly, but this kid really had me hooked. We find out his pops, Ephraim Waite, is not exactly who he says he is, and is played by Bruce Davison. He must have fun appearing in cult-related films, previously in Rob Zombie's Lord of Salem. The characters from the original story have all been gender-swapped except for Pops, which is fine and makes for interesting dynamics between them all. Dr. Derby notices what appears to be the Necronomicon on Ephraim's desk, which comes across a little suspect to say the least. Derby leaves the manic knife-wielding Ephraim, who manages to draw a droplet of blood from her, which the thirsty Book of the Dead absorbs, marking her as the next body to inhabit. The rapid camera movement and editing showing the transformation scenes works well, in giving Asa the same hand infliction as his father, which Derby also exhibits later on, is a nice touch. Suitable Flesh may not have the amount of gore effects from its predecessors, but still manages to deliver some very unsettling bits. The final act in particular, which I won't spoil, is quite good, and kudos to the effects team. The dread that Lynch builds as things unfold is good. If I had one nitpick is to maybe trim some time, but once Derby is replaced by Asa the first time, it starts to take off. Heather Graham really lets loose with her portrayal of Ephraim. The tone of Lovecraft's original story has much more of the gothic creepy dread, and of course takes place over years. Flesh takes place over several days with a rapid downward spiral from Derby, and her frantic back and forth as Ephraim takes her over more and more. You begin to have heavy sympathy, especially after the basement sequence when you discover how damning it is being under the thumb of Ephraim's power. Dr. Upton does her best to help her schizophrenic friend, but it's too late. Suitable Flesh may not have the sharp zingers that Dr. West was known for.
You'll never get credit for my discovery. Who's going to believe a talking head? Get a job in a sideshow.
But is a worthy Lovecraftian film that fits nicely into the Crampton Paoli library next to the other collaborations. It's also enjoyable to visit a Lovecraft film that dives deeper into the unexplained that we only hear in whispers, which is always the best way to enjoy author H.P. Lovecraft's work. He inks the path, but lets your mind wander off into the unknown. Until next time.
I know who I am!
Our first channel watch party double feature will air March 16th, right here on YouTube. So click links below to be notified. Many thanks for the support, and Hail Cthulhu!